My name's Stephanie Altoff, and I'll be interviewing Eugene E. Grinstead. He was born on September 12, 1923 in Durham, North Carolina. He is a retired 3-star admiral from the U.S. Navy. During the events of World War II, he went through the UNC, the 90-Day Wonders, which got him commissioned into the war.
Chair.
Mr. Grinstead, what was your occupation before the war?
I was in college.
And so, were you married at the time before the war?
No, I went through training and got commissioned on the 8th of August, 1944, and got commissioned that day, and then got married.
Did you feel that the U.S. would get involved in the war before Pearl Harbor was bombed?
I think that at this stage I thought we sooner or later would be in the war. Certainly Pearl Harbor made it move forward fast.
Where were you when Pearl Harbor was bombed?
My memory says I was in Chapel Hill, and exactly what I was doing I'm not too sure, but I can remember a lot of excitement that we knew it happened.
How did you get enlisted to fight in the war?
Almost everybody got involved that could pass and signed up into the war. When I signed up, my roommate, for instance, who I knew very well, signed up in the Marine Corps, and he went off to flying school right away. I stayed and did some more college time under the Navy, starting in 43, I think.
Why did you join the Navy instead of some other branch of the service?
Because Chapel Hill primarily was Navy, and I think I was primarily pushed into joining the Navy because the Navy kind of controlled Chapel Hill. The only other thing I can remember there is probably some Marines.
Did you have any family members that served in the military during the war?
I think my wife might have had, but I didn't. I had 2 sisters, and they were younger, and I can't, I certainly had cousins in it, but I can't remember who and what. I can't remember anybody getting killed.
How long did you train before you became an active member?
I don't know, your words kind of throw me, but I told you I was commissioned in 44, but that was out of college. I was in uniform. And we went to, after I left Chapel Hill, went to Asbury Park. Something happened there, and we took over all the hotels, the Navy did. And then I got sent to Columbia to be commissioned. And that was all Navy training, but I can't remember. It was general training, it was not finite training, and that didn't start till I joined the frogman after I was commissioned and went to Fort Pierce, Florida for the first frogman, and then I came to Washington, D.C. for mine disposal training, and then I went to Maui in the Hawaiian group for while they were training in the frogman, which is now called the SEALs. And then we came back to Oceanside, California for cold water training to invade Japan. And that's when the bombs were dropped and the Japanese surrendered. That's about all I can remember right now.
What rank did you start out when you joined the Navy?
Seaman recruit, and then commissioned, was commissioned at Columbia in August 44. But I started as a recruit, senior recruit.
Could you describe for me one of the most memorable or one mission that might stick out in your mind?
I'm not sure we ought to talk about these things in front of my wife. Maybe you think about it. You know, when I was in demolition, after the bombers dropped, we went over and we took the 8th Army into Korea, which is September 45, as I recall. And we picked up. We were elite. We had to clean the beach so you could land the craft, and there was hundreds of ships out there. And I can remember Archbishop Spellman coming from New York to celebrate Mass at the church there. Operated Jensen, which is just on the border off of Seoul, Korea. And then we went back to Okinawa and got a bunch of Marines and took them back into the Yellow Sea up the river to Tientsin, China. And it was so early that the Japanese still occupied all the bridges going up the river to Tientsin, China. And then I came back to Coronado, California, and I believe that was called Team 12. And then there was a man who started the underwater demolition teams there, and I can't remember his name for a minute. My wife might remember. And he taught me to stand in the Navy. And I was put as an executive officer of a team. 2 teams were sent from Coronado through Panama Canal to Little Creek, Virginia. And we put on 2 shows, as I recall. Put on one show in Atlantic City and another in Milwaukee. This is in 46 sometime. I can't remember exactly. And from there I switched into the Supply Corps. And now, I've had some great days ever since, but I think seeing that part of the world probably one of the more memorable parts of what I saw. And I'd never faced anybody that was trying to shoot you, as far as I could tell.
Was there anything you disliked about anything you disliked about your experience?
Not that I can recall. Nothing.
What were your feelings about the atomic bomb being dropped in Hiroshima?
I was very grateful because I think I'd been dead otherwise, without question, along with a lot of other people. Probably saved a lot of Japanese that way too. Because, I was at Oceanside California getting cold water training for invasion. And that would have been a real battle, there's no question about it. There have been a lot of people killed. So even though the bombs killed a lot of people, I think we ended up saving a lot of people through that process.
After Japan surrendered, how did you feel about going back home?
Let me think about that. See, I didn't know when I was going to get out. The people had been in a long time and started getting out. So when I went back, it wasn't home. I came out of the Pacific and went to Coronado, California, and then over to Little Creek. And at Coronado, I think I decided to stay in the Navy. And I switched to Supply Corps because I thought it would be the end of the program. I've never envisioned SEALs. And so the Supply Corps needed people, I suppose, and they took me. And that happened after I reached the East Coast, and I went to Bayonne, New Jersey for Supply Corps training in 46, and I stayed in the Supply Corps until I retired in 84.
When you returned home, was it hard finding a job?
I didn't have to find a job. Staying in the Navy, I had a job.
Did you ever suffer from post-traumatic stress or have any after effects of the war when you came home?
Not that I remember. The thing I remember most is that there wasn't enough money to send anybody out. I remember when I first got in the Supply Corps, I was put on a seaplane tender called Greenwich Bay, ABV 41 as I recall. And it didn't have enough money to go to sea but about 3 days a month. And the thing that got us by is we were made the escort vessel to the Trumans yacht. Truman was president then. And that got us around. So for 2 years in a row, we would house the press and the Secret Service, and we would take the president on a cruise to the Caribbean, and we'd go to Gitmo, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John's, I think, and we'd take him back to Key West. Our reward would be 10 days in Havana, and in February at the Mardi Gras season, and that was big time. And that was something. I'd go to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the streets would be so full of people. It would be like it just starting off, and I'd be too tired to go any further. But it was when the New York Mafia controlled all the gambling in Havana, I think, as I recall.
How did you feel Roosevelt and Truman did leadership-wise during the war?
Yeah, I was very fond of Roosevelt, and I guess I got more fond of, and I kind of felt Truman fell into it, and I think he did. But he seemed to do a pretty good job. He wound it up fairly well, and I think being his escort vessel became more fond of him. And I got invited to 2 occasions that were for him. And as I recall, there was no women there. It was all men, and it was kind of rough. And they roasted him, and he took it well. And the press really laid on him hard, but he always took it well. Now, he used a lot of four-letter words, but he was a tough cookie, and I suppose at that point of life you had to be to get through it.
Is there anything that you would want future generations to know about your experience in the war?
It's kind of hard when I think of the Second World War, when so many people were in it, by umpteen millions, 8, 9, 10 million people involved. And since that time, things have changed so much, it's kind of hard. I watch us today doing things that you would have never dreamed could be done later. And the pilotless aircraft, the type intelligence problems we have. I go back and tell you, for instance, I've seen almost every place in the world, except perhaps the Russian part, through the Navy. The AVP, we got to Gibraltar. We were the first ship, crew, which ship didn't go, a crew did, into Spain after the war in 46. we were at Suez when Count Bernadotte got shot by, he was head of the UN in that Mideast area, and I think that was before we had in Israel. And I remember the skipper, I wanted to get off there and come home because I had orders to leave. He wouldn't let me off because he told me the Egyptian would kill me. And then we went down to Aden. We had a party at Aden. We had the food and they had the liquor. The British were around. Then we went up to the Persian Gulf. And I remember talking to him and let me off at Bahrain. And I stayed there about 3 days before a plane come through. And I think it was an Aramco plane, which at that point controlled the oil coming out of Saudi. And I remember going to Saudi, and I never saw air conditioning. You'd roll up the windows at 120 degree heat to keep heat from coming into the car. And I've been back many times since. It's all air conditioned and marble palaces now. And you can't believe what you're watching. I even kept going back and watching them build their bases in Saudi. If I had, I watched so many changes, and I had to tell people the change. I guess we do a lot more with less today because of the technology changes. On the other hand, this whole world is living better. This country or every other country. You watch Japan. I would watch Japan when it was down on both knees, and people would do almost anything. Like a living today, they control some of the best cars, some of the best things there are. But if you go back and see how they live and the way that world is made, you see something that you're not used to. When they go to Paris, I used to watch our Japanese come through and buy everything in the store to carry home. The best hats, best perfumes. They had the money, they bought, they were great travelers. The Chinese all of a sudden, and I've been back to China for DOD in 85, I guess, after I retired in 84. It today is controlling some of the most productive sections of the world. If you go in stores, you can hardly buy a woman's dress that isn't made in China. Sweaters, shirts, all kinds of things. So they're going to take over, and it's going to be amusing to watch. I think they had 1,003.3 people when I was there in 85, and I don't know what it got today, but when I see pictures on TV, I wouldn't know Beijing from what I knew it for. Shanghai, Tianjin, I went to those places. Another place I went to is where the emperor had buried himself and all his soldiers and everybody around. I can't remember the name of that town. I got a picture of it at home. But I watch what they're producing today, and they've already started 2 car plants, and they're flying a guy out of the moon. So you kind of say, who's going to stop them? How are you going to stop them? It's going to be interesting to watch.
Were your duties in the Navy different after the war?
Time made it so that we started taking more interest in who we were. We written over World War II at first, and then over time we started to buy new ships, putting in new types of technology and closing a lot of bases. And then all of a sudden we started taking a great interest in the whole world. At first we kind of wanted to withdraw from it. I guess the Marshall Plan made us take a lot of interest in parts of the world. And when I was a younger guy, we didn't take any interest in the whole world. The Second World War pushed us into that. And then as the British went down and and for instance, other people, the world we started having fill in and did fill in. And for instance, the ship I was on was the first ship ever stationed into the Persian Gulf. After I went in with it, got painted white, air conditioned, and sent back in. Then it was the first U.S. ship. And I guess we were kind of relieving the British. For instance, when we went into Oman, I can remember the only Caucasian I saw was a British guy that run the teletype. Today it's all marble. I can remember there was a castle up on a hill to my left as we pulled in Oman, and I asked somebody what it was, and it turns out that the Sheikh of Oman had put his brother in the jail up on the hill because he caught him one of his 120-some wives, and I got a big kick out of that. And we're really not over it. I've been there back many times, and even though the Quran says they can be married only 4 times, they seem to have the rules that say if you can afford it, you can have a wife in any palace you can put them in, within the royal family anyway. I don't know where I was, but I'll wait for you to hit me with the next question.
Is there anything else about the war that you want to share?
Let me get something. I don't know if I hurt my leg sleeping or what. I've got to be all a history of where I've been and what I've done, but there's a couple of things I wrote down that I might tell you about. And by the way, when I got off of this Greenwich Bay in the Bahrain, it made a round the world trip. And by the time it hit Panama, I had been restationed into Panama. And remember, we had them to a house, and the whole crew came, all the houses came and stayed till the sun came up. And I remember Gail, I had to go to work. Gail took the skipper back to the ship along with some other people, and some weren't able to make it. And then we went to Panama, and in Panama, I got to go to Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, all of Central America, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. And I moved on from there and went to an outfit up in Pennsylvania called NADC Johnsville. And there we had the first centrifuge, which is what you prepared to see what happened to the heart as you shot people out in the sky. And we had one of the first trainings that we were headed for the moon, I suppose, because we'd just put them in those centrifuges and get them up to speeds. We also developed missiles there and all the electronics that was put in. And then I went to Compare Med, which is Naples, Italy in 52, 54. And we hit Turkey, got all of North Africa, because that's where the war, and this admiral wanted to see everything that had happened there. That's where we'd been fighting all the way across North Africa. Went to Austria, went to England, London many times. And we had bases in Morocco, went to Morocco many times, Malta and Crete. And then I was at ASO 54 to 58. And it was mostly in the U.S. From a standpoint of production, I went to Connecticut real often. I had charge of engines, jet engines up there, and for airplanes. And went to Connecticut, Indiana, all the Air Force bases. And we moved on from there and went to the Roosevelt Roosevelt was a carrier, CPA-42 as I recall. And the first was reported to it in New York where it was being overhauled. Came out of there and we went to Gitmo. We had all the Caribbean for training. Then we went to the Med. We had Cairns, Geneva, Barcelona, Naples, Sicily, Athens, Palma, and Toulon, France. And I got off of there, I think, in 1960. From there I went to the Navy Supply Systems Command here in Washington, and had kind of a duty that just specialized in things we did just to take care of special events we were doing. For instance, I worked on the Polaris missile at that point a lot, and later we developed a Trident. We picked the first base we set up out in Seattle, Washington. Went out there to survey it. In 63 to 65, I had Oceana, which was a jet base that was an East Coast base that trained Navy flyers in certain types of airplanes. We had the F-14. I remember we sold that to the Iranian Air Force. Used to go over there quite often. And Jacks, I was slots of between 69 and 70 of NAS Jacks. Went to be a head supply guy at Chief of Naval Air of the Atlantic. And we hit everything in the Atlantic area, Newfoundland, Iceland, Crete, Cyprus, the whole works, Turkey, every place you could think of in that possibility. And then I went to Op 41 after I made Admiral, and we didn't have a hell of a lot of travel there, but I had charge of all the logistics budget for the Navy. And that included ammunition, which was at that time was basically the U.S. Bureau of Ordnance, but up in OpNav, and which was the Pentagon. I had all that control with their budgets. In any case, ended up giving the Army all the bases that made Navy ammunition that we didn't buy from somebody. That was a budget issue primarily, and trying to reduce the Army specialized in ammunition, lived on ammunition, so theoretically they could make it cheaper, and we did. And then there's advice, I was very little traveling. You stayed home while the number one guy run around, and then I became a number one, and from there, we hit everything there was to hit, including Japan, Korea, Thailand, Iran, Saudi, Turkey, Egypt, Guam, Indonesia, Singapore, Pakistan, Bahrain, Greece, Crete, all of those. And then in '84, I took over DLA, and I hit everything I never mentioned, plus I had in Germany, France, Australia, and New Zealand, and I went to China after the war with DOD in '85. And then I retired in July '84, but DOD sent me to China after that, which was kind of amusing since I'd already been there. That kind of summarizes my career.
It seems that you have been pretty much everywhere in the world. What was your favorite place that you went?
You know, I guess I enjoyed Italy as much as any place I've ever been. You kind of get fond of Italians to do things in a little different way. Anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Now I'm going to give you this, since there's three of you, there's three things that tell the history of what I've done